Welcome to the Built to Last podcast, a community for coaches founded on the principles encourage, equip, and empower. We are performance coaches working for eternal purpose. Now, here are your co-hosts, Charlie Ray and Justin Bentavania.
Hey guys, welcome back. Built to Last podcast, episode 7. This week we interviewed Jeremy Evans. He's the director of athletic performance training at the Kings Academy in Florida. It was an awesome episode. We heard a lot of coach's story, and he is a great storyteller. And so a lot of things in his story that he shared with us that brought back memories from my own journey growing in the profession. And so I think you guys will take a bunch away from this one. We are a new podcast, and we appreciate all the support from our listeners. One of the biggest things for us being a new podcast is when people like our episodes on social media, share them, subscribe, things like that. So if the episodes bless you, it would be a huge help for us if you would do one of those things. From here, Charlie, do you want to talk a little bit about how everybody can get involved with Built to Last as we're trying to make this thing a community a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So guys, the way to get involved with Built to Last community is really just to, be involved with the website. Obviously we're trying to post articles on there about things that are relevant to coaching and also things that are relevant to growing as a Christian. So like, what is the gospel, things like that. So just read those articles, comment on those things. We're trying to create a online presence. Also, if you would like to be an article writer, definitely reach out to us. Also, if you would like to be a speaker or be one of our prayer supporters, we would definitely love to have your help in that area. Guys, the Bible verse for this episode, for this month, is Hebrews 12, 1-4. And it's a really good verse. Listen up. It says, "Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off anything that hinders us and the sin that so easily entangles us. And let us run with perseverance the race that is marked out for us, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the author and the perfecter of our faith, who for the joy set before him endured the cross, scorning its shame, and is seated at the right hand of God. Consider him who endured such opposition from sinful man, that you may not grow weary and lose heart." Guys, that's an amazing verse of truth right there. We encourage you guys to fix your eyes on Jesus, especially as it gets to hardships that you have to face as a coach. Fix your eyes on Jesus. He is the one who gives us strength.
And that's a meaty verse, Coach. That's a couple verses there.
Yeah, multiple verses.
Love it. Cool. So let's do a little bit of Coach's bio here. So just to let all our listeners know who Coach Evans is. So like I said, he is the director of athletic performance training at the Kings Academy in Florida. Before going to the Kings Academy, he was at Exos in Florida as well. Exos at the Andrews Institute. He was a performance specialist there, where he worked with a variety of elite athletes. And he also has experience at a bunch of other high schools where he worked as an intern, a coach, and things like that. And he'll go into that a bunch in this episode when he talks about his story. But he's also a graduate of the University of South Alabama, where he did his undergrad, and he's got his master's from the University of West Florida as well. And so, Coach, maybe just a quick overview before we get into the episode, and I think we're good to go here.
Okay, so the overview of the episode, guys, Coach Evans talks about his background in strength conditioning, but he doesn't just share from his professional development. He shares about his faith story. It's a really interesting story. It's very unique to him. He also talks about his core values and how he implements that in training young men and women to become better people. And then finally, he goes into some different lessons that God has taught him and some different lessons that he's learned throughout his life. Let's go. Coach Evans, we're very excited to have you on the episode, and we'll just go right into it. What is your background in strength and conditioning, and how did you get into the position you're in right now?
So I'm from Mobile, Alabama originally. Born and raised there. Ended up at the University of South Alabama and Mobile. One of those guys that couldn't really afford to go anywhere else but stay home with the parents and drive 45 minutes to campus every day. Had all these dreams of going to Alabama and all these things, but in reality, wasn't going to go pay for an apartment and all those things. So ended up at University of South Alabama. Was going there for, I think I was a sophomore or junior. You guys probably heard this story already, but University of South Alabama decided to add football out of thin air. All of a sudden, they approved Division I football for the first time in school history. It was pretty exciting. I was going to school there, kind of going back and forth between like physical education and exercise science, kind of wanting to be some kind of coach or stay in the athletic arena and maybe be a physical therapist or something like that. So had basically just switched over to exercise science and was trying to get ready for PT school. And so this gets announced, and everybody in Mobile is kind of excited. It's all over the news. People are calling me and texting me and things. My parents are calling me, saying, South Alabama just had a football first time. They announced their first football coach ever, which is Joey Jones, when I was going to school there, which is pretty cool because my whole family is Alabama fans. If you're from Alabama, it's Bama or Auburn. And so I was born into an Alabama family. And Joey Jones played for Bear Bryant back in the day, receiver at Alabama. So pretty neat. You started to see some construction going on, some things going on when they hired him. And so I wanted to find a way to be involved. Long story short, I went and sat in his office and was asking how I could help. Can I coach DBs? Can I do something to help out? And there's this rumor going around that if you helped out with football, they were giving guys free apartments on campus because they were building these new apartment complexes where the football players were going to stay. And I was driving 45 minutes every day, one way, going to school full-time, working full-time, driving back to my parents' house. And I was like, hey, free apartment. And so the rumor was kind of, the people who were helping out with football, the GAs and different things like that would help watch over the football players in this new apartment complex. And so I go sit in his office, and back then I was probably 15 pounds heavier than I am now, a lot more muscle mass before wife and kids and all those things. And so he looked at me for about 30 seconds and said, you'd be a good fit in the weight room. And I'm like, weight room? I've been going here for 3 years. I've never seen a weight room on this campus except for a little basketball weight room we had in the arena. And so he said, we're building a brand new weight room. I just hired a strength coach at Mississippi State who was with me at Birmingham Southern. Coach Jones had already started football from the scratch at Birmingham Southern before. And so he sends me to his office, and I go sit in Justin Schwinn's office, really good strength coach. He works with Special Forces now up in Fort Bragg, North Carolina. So I go sit in his office, and we talked for a little bit. He's like, man, I could use your help right now. I've got one assistant. I've got no interns, or maybe one or two. I think had guys that come by saying they were interested. And, they built this brand new weight room, and, we're going to have a bunch of guys come try to play football Division I that, probably have no experience playing Division I football. And, we're going to have guys come out the woodworks from Alabama that are from Mobile that were going to school at South Alabama or going to some JUCO down the road and transfer over and all these things going on. So he said, I'll be honest with you, I could use your help, but, you're going to sacrifice a lot of time. We're going to get here at 5:30 in the morning. We're going to do all these things. And try to make the long story short. But so I kind of fell into the weight room there and fell in love with it. Didn't know strength coach was a real thing until Joey Jones told me, I just hired a strength coach at Mississippi State. We're building a brand new weight room. You'd be a good fit with him. Didn't even know that was a thing. I was like, wait a minute, there's a guy that sits in the weight room all day and trains athletes. That sounds amazing. And so I ended up in the weight room there. But, we saw a lot of guys come in, try to play Division I football that were not ready, and we had to get them ready because our first year, they only let us play 8 games, I believe. They gave us 6 scholarships, and they let us play D2, 3 schools. So we're playing schools that are smaller than us, but, again, they've been playing football for 30, 40, 50 years and had, 60 scholarships, and we had 6. So I saw a lot of guys that were not ready to play D1. A lot of guys quit. A lot of guys, make it one day, never come back. A lot of guys make it through the warm-up, throw up, never come back. But we saw a lot of guys, walk on, and we basically walked into our first season with all walk-ons. We had 6 scholarships. So we played our first season, never lost a game. So they had these joke shirts in the school store you could buy that said football is still undefeated before the season started because we never played a game. And so people were able to wear those for the whole first season. So we get into our second season. Of course, we're getting a few more transfers now. We won a lot of games, and the success looks like it's going to be huge. And they're building all these facilities. So when they bring a guy in for a tour, they get to show off the brand new weight room, the brand new turf field, and all these things. And so the second year they let us play 10 games. They bump up our competition to like Division I AA schools, things like that, and let us play 10 games. We go into our second season again, seeing guys going from being able to squat 405 to literally we had a guy squatting 750. I saw guys bench 550. I saw guys hang clean 405 that came in and, we're doing the average things. And we had a really good strength coach that knew how to get people strong. And so walking through our second season, never lose a game again. I don't think it's ever happened in NCAA history. 2 undefeated seasons. So again, these still undefeated shirts are still in the bookstore that you could buy for 2 years. So it's pretty neat. So after that, I was a senior, head strength coach, started giving me my own sports as an intern, which is pretty cool. Got me a ring for the second season, which is the only intern that got a ring. So he went to bat for me and said that I had spent so much time that I deserved it, and started giving me track and field throwers to myself. I had I had the golf team to myself, things like that. So it's pretty cool as an intern to have my own sports. So he started making some phone calls for me, told me I needed to get a GA spot and start emailing everybody I could to get a GA spot. Didn't know what a GA spot was. He had to explain it to me. I'm like, I have a master's degree to be a strength coach. And he's like, man, in the day and age we live in, anything that's on your resume make you more competitive to other resumes. Like, you may be competing for a job with somebody who has a bachelor's degree and all the experience, but you have a master's degree and you may get the job. So plus, you'll get 2 more years of experience on your resume. During that process, you need to get certified. So you'll graduate with a master's degree, 2 more years of experience, and whatever certifications you can get done in that 2-year period. So he started making phone calls. I started emailing people. He was good friends with Kent Morgan at University of West Florida, one of the best strength coaches in the country. Still there to this day. I don't know how many years he's been there now. He was there before football. He's there after football. Their second season of football, they just went to the national championship for the first, in their second season, which is pretty cool. Just built a brand new weight room and all those things. But before they had football, he offered me. He came over and watched me coach at South Alabama because it's only an hour drive to Pensacola. We got to know each other. He offered me a job, and I got to spend 2 years with him before football got there. So it's one of those things that, when I was really looking at the options that I had, I kind of wanted to stay football. And when I met Coach Morgan and people talked about him and told stories about him, and I was like, that 2 years will change your life. You won't spend 2 years being a setup, cleanup GA. You'll actually get coaching experience. You'll actually be poured into. You'll actually get education. So went over there and got 2 years of just, a lot of staff education, a lot of reading books together and talking about the books, a lot of reading articles together, a lot of watching videos together, a lot of going to clinics and conferences, and just really got poured into for 2 years by an incredible man. So that 2 years kind of changed everything for me. The Exos was right down the road, about 20-minute drive. You could be at Exos and Pensacola, which was a pretty amazing place. So we did a lot of staff education with those guys, got to know those guys a little bit. So I get done with my master's degree. I was the head guy for both basketball teams for 2 years. I helped work with baseball. I helped with volleyball, but those were Coach Morgan's sports mainly. And then I trained both tennis teams and both golf teams. But it was just 2 years of getting away from football and getting to really figure out how to train other sports outside of football. And so it's pretty interesting. So I get done with that, and I really want to try out the high school arena. I'm like, I think I can make a bigger impact at the high school level. I know when I was in high school, if I would have had a real strength coach, it would have been really powerful for me to take me to the next level. And just looking around, being around Pensacola and training some high school kids and things on the side while I was a GA, and just getting to know the area and getting to know where I'm from, Mobile, just the weight rooms at high schools and the people who are running the weight rooms at the high schools just kind of upset me a little bit of how every high school has an athletic trainer, but not every high school could even care less about having a full-time certified strength coach, and how limited they were and how much the kids weren't getting what they deserve. And so for some reason, I just really wanted to try the high school route and see if I can get something rolling, see if I can get a good situation and make a big impact. So between Coach Morgan at West Florida and Coach Schwind at South Alabama, they were both from Texas. And so I had a lot of connections. Like, hey, man, if you want to go high school, Texas is the way to go. So they start making phone calls for me. We start looking online for some jobs. And I ended up in right outside of San Antonio, Texas, right south of San Antonio, at a place called Poteet, Texas, Poteet High School. Very small, very underprivileged school. Not a great situation, but, man, I had a lot of fun. Not a great weight room, but we had a lot of fun. Pushed those guys, and it's just those kids that didn't have much but knew how to get after it. And if they were going to go to college, it was on a athletic scholarship. It wasn't, they were just going to college for their grades and things like that. So really cool connections made, really cool impact. But football coach had been there. I think it was his 3rd season. So I came in. I knew things weren't great. I think they had won 1 or 2 games the year before. But the AD was an incredible man. Been there for like 16 years as a head baseball coach. Was born and raised there. Went to college. Came back to his hometown to make a difference. And he had a vision, and I bought into that vision. And we went, and things just didn't pan out. Football coach just, he had a limited amount of time to turn things around. But my first year there, we won 1 game. He got fired by the AD. AD wanted to make a change. He said some things about the AD and got the AD fired. And so here I am, no football coach, no AD that hired me. and a superintendent who has no idea who I am or what I do for the most part. Probably doesn't.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so I'm kind of in a bind. You know, I've got some things going on. AD's trying to take me with him. Head football coach is trying to take me with him. Our defensive coordinator was applying for some head jobs, trying to take me with him. So a lot of crazy stuff going on. But I got a wife and a 1-year-old, so things aren't good. They bring in a new guy, and we all kind of knew what was going to happen when the new guy came in. They kind of merged the head football coach with the AD, save some money, and get rid of those disputes between the AD and head football coach. Like most schools, the AD is a head football coach. So I did that, and we all kind of knew it was coming. He came in, hey, you got 2 months of your contract. Once summertime gets here, you're all fired. We're bringing all my guys from my old school. And so the school goes from having their first full-time strength coach ever to a head football coach who's been around for 30 years in Texas, thinks he could do it by himself. He don't need my help. So pretty interesting situation with a wife and a 1-year-old, my first job. And so I've got 2 months to figure it out. And had some things lined up, had some things working. You know, every high school, you're in a 1-year contract. So if you want to make a change, it's usually in the summertime. So we're in like March. Yeah, we're like in March. So I've got April, May. Really, I got till June to figure something out. But all the jobs that I had lined up were also going to start in June because that's the way high schools work. And so it was kind of like wait till the last second or figure something out, you know, in a different arena outside of high school because you can't wait till the last second with a wife and a 1-year-old depending on you. So I started looking around and happened to be Exos in Pensacola had a job opening that it's just one of those God things, man, where I was like, I was in Pensacola for 2 years. I know some guys that work there. There's never job openings there. Turns out one of the assistant strength coaches took a job with the Dallas Cowboys and just left. And I was literally just playing online trying to figure out what we were going to do. And it was one of those things that, you know, I looked at my wife and I was like, there's no way I'm getting this job, but might as well apply for it. So I applied for it. I sent an email to Russell Orr, the big guy at Exos, who was with the Yankees for, I think, like 14, 16 years. Had a World Series ring, incredible man. I met through my time at West Florida. And sent an email to him, never responded. Called Coach Morgan, said, hey, man, I really need to get this job. To be back in Pensacola where my daughter was born, to be an hour from Mobile where our family is, me and my wife, and to be at a place like Exos, you know, from the situation I'm at right now would be pretty cool. And so he made some phone calls for me. And Russell Orr at Exos was basically like, man, I've got like 300 resumes on my desk for the same job. Can you have Jeremy email me again and just put like his name in the subject so I can even find his resume? Like it was crazy. So I emailed him again, my resume again, and he calls me up or emails me and said, can we have a little phone conversation one day? And, you know, every day that I go to work at this point is the first time in my life that I felt like I didn't want to go to work. You know how strength coaches are. We don't make a lot of money. We do this for our passion. We do this because there's never a day that I wake up and don't want to go to work. So every day that I'm going to Poteet High School, it's just getting worse and worse, man. Football coach is coming in, and he's running the weight room, and I'm kind of sitting back as a certified strength coach with a master's degree, watching him undo everything I've done. So to get an email back from Russ Orr and say, hey, I want to have a phone call with you. When you can do it? I'm like, anytime. You tell me when, let's do it. So we happened on a phone call a couple of days later. Goes well. He wants to do another phone call conversation with the manager at that Exos location, Anthony Hopgood, who, man, you guys can see the smile on my face, ends up being an incredible friend of mine later on down the road. But gosh, played football at Ole Miss from the backwoods of Mississippi. Just one of those guys that just hunts and fishes, and just an incredible dude, incredible Christian man. And so anyway, at the time I don't know him at all. Hop on a phone call a couple of days later with both the guys. And then a couple of days later, email me and want to fly me into Pensacola and put me in a hotel on the beach and bring me in for a whole day just to do an entire day of spending the day at Exos, meeting all the coaches, meeting all the PTs and athletic trainers and dietitians, and just kind of hanging out with everybody. And they put me on the spot, maybe coach a group of interns. I was in a suit and tie because I had to like take my jacket off and coach a group of interns through a speed session real quick and things like that. And then hop back on a plane. And so back to work the next day. I missed one day of work, and literally 2 weeks went by. I didn't hear a word, and every day it's just getting worse and worse and worse. And I had some things lined up, but everything was in the summertime, you know, so it's kind of getting crunch time. And one day I get up and I go to work again, and I taught two health classes, and now I was in the weight room the rest of the day. So my first 2 periods, I would check my emails and try to figure out how much longer do I have to fake this teaching health class thing? I do not want to do this. And how much longer do I have to suffer through this? And one day I get to work, open my emails right before my first class starts, and got an email with a job offer from Exos. And I'm like, I wanted to walk out right there. I'm running back the ball to our defensive coordinator, like, that's awesome. And so they're like, can you start in 2 weeks? I'm like, I can start whatever. And things were really bad at the time. So I walked down between in my planning period to tell my principal, and they basically told me I was done that day. I could pack my stuff and get out because the kids and the parents were so upset at the things that were going on that for me to be there teaching 2 health classes and then sit in the weight room not doing anything was causing more drama than keeping me there. It's one of those things. I don't know if anybody has made it to a 2-week what do you call it? 2-week notice. I don't know if everybody's actually made it through the 2 weeks. So people usually just tell you pack your stuff and leave. So she's like, all right, today's your last day. Just after you leave school today, don't tell anybody what's going on. Just pack your stuff and don't come back tomorrow. I'm like, all right, see ya. And we got to spend 2 weeks getting ready to move back to Pensacola, and we got to come back to Mobile and stay with family for a few days while we were trying to find a place in Pensacola. So pretty interesting, and ended up at Exos for 3 years. Incredible job, incredible company to work for. I mean, care about their employees. It was basically the only 8 to 5 no weekend strength and conditioning job you could find. It's pretty, most of us work weekends, most of us travel with our teams and things like that. Exos, there's none of that. It's 8 to 5, no weekends. It's pretty awesome, except for a combine season, the only time we work on Saturdays. And so I spent 3 years there. We had 3 or 4 speed/strength coaches on staff at all times. We ran the NFL combine. We had 2 full-time dietitians on staff, a full-time PT, 2 athletic trainers. We had a chef on staff of a restaurant upstairs. We had cold tubs, hot tubs, Normatex. We had a what do you call the pool with the treadmill in it?
Alter G, maybe? Is it the Alter G?
The Alter G
That's
treadmill,
the anti-gravity one, but it's a anyway, HydroWorks pool. So we had a HydroWorks pool that had the treadmill in it that you could raise the levels and everything was all in it. We had a biomechanics lab. The guys, it was all inclusive. We had a resort where all the NFL players stayed, and the MLB players, and the Special Forces soldiers, and so they all stayed on this beach resort 5 minutes from us, and they had every single meal was with us. Every single protein shake was made for them. They got PT every single day, especially the Special Forces guys who were there for some kind of injury. They trained twice a day, so we had the speed in the morning. We did lifting in the afternoon, so they trained twice a day, 5 days a week. Wednesday was a recovery day. We had like 8 massage therapists that were coming on Wednesdays. Everybody get a massage. We do a whole cold tub, hot tub, foam roll, stretch day. So 3 years is just incredible. Man, I felt like I got poured into so much. And, as the time went on, it kind of got a little monotonous. I can't speak for everybody. I would say nobody, but I didn't get the coaching to work with that caliber of athlete. Special Forces guys were pretty special. I do miss that part. But to work with NFL players, MLB players, NBA players at that 1% of the population was just not what I wanted to do for a long time. But I did get poured into a lot, did learn a lot. But, I'd get phone calls of job offers, and I turned them down, and got a couple of college job offers turned down, got some military Special Forces bases offers turned down. And my mentors were just kind of, University of West Florida, Kent Morgan, and Justin Schwinn at South would just kind of be like, why would you ever leave Exos? What would get you to leave? And I said, it sounds crazy, man, but to be honest with you, to go back to a high school again, to be a good situation where I know I can make a huge impact. I know my AD supported me. I know it's not the situation I had in Texas. To know I'd be there for a long time, I would love to go back to a high school again. They're like, you would leave Exos for a high school? And I'm like, yeah, it sounds kind of crazy, but if it was the right situation, I would. So literally like 6 months goes by, and I hadn't said a word, and I've turned down a few jobs, and Kent Morgan calls me at University of West Florida and says, hey, I got this high school I think you'd be interested in. And I'm like, oh man, I was mostly joking. I mean, that would be the dream, but I didn't think it would actually come true. So he calls me and says, I got a high school I think you'd be interested in. And he's like, one of my best friends, we coached together at TCU, is the head football coach down this school called the Kings Academy in West Palm Beach, Florida. And they're building a brand new weight room right now. The football team's undefeated. Football coach is really good, incredible Christian man. He's adopted a couple kids. I mean, just great man, and I think it'd be a good situation for you and your family. And he has 2 daughters as well, but his oldest daughter had already started school and things that he didn't really want to move her. And West Florida was just fixing to add, I think they just added football or about to add football or build a brand new weight room. So he actually called to get Kent Morgan to come down here, and Kent, couldn't leave. And so he called me to ask if I'd be interested. And at the time, my daughter was it was the summertime, so she had just turned 5. It's actually June. She had just turned 5, and we were actually looking at elementary schools for her. And we're getting a little frustrated at Pensacola trying to find a decent place. And we were actually thinking about homeschooling her. And my wife was 9 months pregnant. And so it's kind of crazy timing. It was almost perfect timing, really. But originally, of course, we're all like, whoa, this is really bad timing. But now that I think about it, when I gave it some thought, it was actually perfect timing. So he tells me about it. Football coach calls me. We talk about it. Athletic director calls me. We talk about it. Man, they're all just incredible men. And you guys probably heard this story before, but when the 2 athletic directors called me for a phone call, the whole conversation was, tell us about your testimony. Where are you right now with your walk with God and all these things? And I'm like, man, this is the craziest interview I've ever had. This is awesome. And so it's a pre-K through 12. So they're like, your daughter will be on the same campus as you all day, every day. You'll know all of her teachers. You'll be her strength coach. You'll know all of her coaches eventually when she gets older. Your son will be here one day. Your kids will go here completely free. This school's around like $20,000 a year. Just an incredible place, man. And so my wife was 9 months pregnant, and it was June, and my son was due around June 15th, and the weight room was supposed to be done around July 4th week. So I'm like, hey, can we wait till my son's born and then come down a few weeks later? Like, man, that's like perfect timing because we're thinking the weight room's gonna be done around the week of July 4th. So if you could move that week, which is actually my birthday week, it may work out perfectly where you could be the first one to ever walk into that brand new weight room. And I'm like, man, this is incredible. So we took off and did it. Obviously a lot of prayer, a lot of thoughts, a lot of things had to line up. But again, it was one of those God things where just everything had to fall in place. Daughter had just turned 5, and we were getting frustrated about the elementary schools in the area. Wife was pregnant, so we wanted her to be able to stay home with my son for a while. And so I basically told the athletic director, if the financial situation is good enough for my wife to stay home for the first year, I think we can make it work. My daughter being on campus with me at all times. And then we had just bought a house in Pensacola about a year and a half before, and just everything just had to line up. I'm like, I can't afford to put my house up for sale and go pay mortgage in South Florida. South Florida is crazy expensive. And so my parents were in the process of building a beach house in Pensacola Beach, and we're putting their house up for sale in Mobile, and we're trying to move closer so they can keep a better eye on their beach house they were building. And so they had just got an offer on their house, and they had just closed on their house, and we're looking for a place to live. So we'll come live at your house to pay your mortgage until it sells, and then we'll get us a small apartment or something until the beach house. It was just one of those God things that, like, if all those pieces hadn't lined up the way they did, there's no way I could have came down here. I mean, you got a wife who's due in 2 weeks. You got a house that you cannot put up for sale and move because there's no way I could pay rent and a mortgage, and just all those things that if it was one summer before and my daughter wasn't 5, I wouldn't see the benefits of her being at the same school that I'm at, and things like that. So just one of those things that God had to line all up, so I couldn't say no. And, we all Christians tell ourselves, at some point in your life that I got to stop saying no to things. And so I was already really close to saying yeah. And then he just kind of lined everything up to where I couldn't say no. Because at this point you say no, and it's just, it's going against God because he just lined everything up for this job move. So we've been down here. This is my 3rd year. Just finished our 2nd year last year, my 2nd season here. We went to the state championship for the first time in school history and football. So that was pretty cool, pretty special for just my 2nd season here. In the 2nd year, we've had this brand new weight room. But things are good. My daughter just started 2nd grade. My son just turned 2 this summer. Wife got that back to work about 6 months ago. So he was about a year and a half before she had to go back to work. And she works very part-time. So he's home with her a lot, and things are good.
That is awesome, Coach. And I just want to go way back a little bit. Just one of the things you said earlier on in your career when you were an intern, and you said that you were one of the only interns who got the, was it a conference championship ring?
They gave us a ring for being undefeated. It was kind of it doesn't mean anything, but to be on probation by NCAA, you can't go to a bowl game or anything. So if we were If we were actually in the NCAA, actually in the Sun Belt, we would have been fighting for the Sun Belt championship, and we would have been going to a bowl game. So they wanted to give the kids something, and the coaches something. And when they did all that, my head strength coach went and got me a ring too, which is pretty cool. All those 5:30 in the mornings, those mornings where it was like 35 degrees outside, we're out there setting sleds and 500-pound tires up, and I'm doing it all for free just because I want to do it. It's just something that, I couldn't imagine ever getting paid to do this when I was an intern, and to get paid to do this job is pretty incredible. But I did it all for free for like 2 years. And so he went to bat for me to the head coach and got me a ring. So that was doesn't mean much, but it's cool. It's nice to have a home right now.
Yeah, and it means something to you, and that's awesome. And one of the things I wanted to go a little deeper on that was, so what do you think set you apart? I know you said you spent a lot of time with the guys, but I'm sure other than just spending time with them, there was probably quality time there. And what did you do within that time that you think, as an intern, it put you in their minds to be someone that they should get a ring for as well?
Oh man, just sacrifice. I sacrificed a lot to be there for free. All the early mornings when I still in the beginning still lived 45 minutes from campus. So there was times I'm getting up at 4:30, 4 o'clock in the morning to go set up 500-pound tires and sleds and all these things for nothing. Just the sacrifices that I made. Eventually, I quit my job. I had a job at T-Mobile actually my first couple of years of college. I was making really good money and had saved up enough to kind of pay off all my bills. I had a truck back then that I had paid off by a lot of hard work because I didn't want to have a truck note anymore. And when I got the internship and started doing things, I wanted to try to find a way where I could be there more in my senior year than I was my junior year. So made all the sacrifices I could to pay that truck off and get things done to where I could really be there full time outside of the classes I was taking. But just sacrifice, man, and just take ownership. I was one of those interns that felt like if something went wrong in the workout, if something wasn't set up right, if something wasn't cleaned up right, it was my fault. And I'm big on Jocko Willink, just to finish extreme ownership. And
Great
now looking back now, I was doing those things as an intern for nothing. And I wasn't making any money, but in my mind, I didn't need to make any money. I had the best job in the world. I was an intern. Just seeing those young guys come in at 18 years old and try to play Division I football, and us help them reach that goal was pretty incredible. So I don't know if there's anything special I did. I probably wasn't the best intern in the beginning. I didn't like the whole cleaning up and setting up thing. I wanted to coach. I thought I knew how to coach. I thought I knew everything I needed to know. And in the beginning, had this big ego, and I was pretty big and strong back then. A lot bigger and stronger than I am now, and kind of thought I had it all figured out. I was just going to walk in and start coaching, and I was humbled really quickly, but humbled in a good way, to where, like, hey man, I don't know everything. I got taught how to bench press 2 weeks ago, and that blew my mind. And I thought I knew, and I was bench pressing like 275 at 180 pounds, and all of a sudden, a couple months goes by, and I hit 315 for one just by learning techniques. So I'm like, there's a lot of stuff that I don't know. I don't know how to teach a hang clean or a squat that I thought I knew how to teach. And so, not humbled in a way where I took it personally, but humbled in a way where I realized I didn't know anything. Where a lot of interns that I saw come and go on the 2 years that I was there were humbled to the point where they're embarrassed or their ego got a little crushed, and they got their hours done and got out of there as fast as they could. And I didn't even know what hours were when I started. I didn't even understand I needed an internshid. I just went and volunteered. And so by the time the time came for me to get my hours signed, my professor he'd seen me in the weight room. He knew I was there. He's like, take this piece of paper down, have Coach Schwinn sign how many hours you've done. And it was one of those jokes that, like, you had to have 120 hours, and I had, like, he wrote down like 2,000, or something like that. So it was pretty funny before I even needed an internship. So I don't know if I did anything special. Just try to get better every day, just like I do now.
I think even just the basics, like you said, just showing up, putting the sacrifice in. And I think when people see that you care, it goes a long way. And there are a ton of interns, I'm sure, that, travel across the country every year in strength and conditioning, trying to make it and find a way to get the foot in the door. And, even just doing the basics, like you said, things like showing up on time, even if it's 4:30 in the morning, whatever it is. I think that stuff goes a long way, and that probably spoke to your character and how much you did have a passion for the field. So that's awesome.
Yeah, Coach Evans, I wanted to ask you one thing. You talked about the three attributes of sacrifice, ownership, and then humility. And it's pretty encouraging just to get to hear your story. I love getting to hear people's stories because you get to see God's faithfulness weaved in and through your life, but it's also you were being faithful as well. You were being faithful to working hard, to showing up on time. That book, Extreme Ownership, I read it as well. It's extremely good. It challenged you big time on, lay down your pride and just be humble and take ownership over everything. So that's an incredible book if you guys haven't read that. But to learn from your mentors, Kent Morgan and all these other guys you mentioned, how have you tied that into kind of your philosophy and you even being an Exos with not only strength and conditioning, but using this platform that we have to build character from boys to men? How have you done that, and how have you kind of developed a process, a system of doing that?
Oh man, that's a great question. From a strength and conditioning standpoint, honestly, from an X's and O's, how to get guys really strong, from the periodization, all these things comes from Coach Schwind. The guy was incredible at getting people strong. He knew conjugate system versus, ladder, unilateral, all these different non-linear periodization and all these things. He was super smart in all those things. But to be honest, and he'll probably watch this, to be honest, as an intern, we look at him, I know he was early in his career. When I was there, as the first couple of years of football, he lacked a lot of other things. Didn't necessarily care about the character building and all those other things that were going on, because I think the football coaches were doing a pretty good job at that. So learned a lot of X's and O's and a lot of information from him. But as I moved on to Kent Morgan, man, and we didn't have football, so there weren't these numbers we had to hit. We didn't have we didn't need every lineman squatting 500 pounds and every, all these different things we had to worry about. And it was a little bit more laid back because we had all Olympic sports, and just getting to hang out with this guy that's just was more worried about the kind of husband he was and the kind of dad he was to his kids, and the kind of role model he was to his athletes, changed my perspective a lot. And then to get to Exos and, to be at the high school by yourself and not have those guys and kind of figure it out yourself was a little shock. I think I did a decent job, but I'm sure there's people around that would look back just like I did with Coach Schwind and say there was a lot of things I didn't do very good at. And so to get to Exos and to be around a guy like Anthony Hobgood and some of the guys all around there, again, like Kent Morgan is just one of those guys that they don't really make those guys anymore. The hunt, fish, just country, tell stories, drink coffee together, just get poured into in a different way than you did with Coach Schwind, and probably a different way that I need to be poured into, because when I was with Coach Schwind as a young intern, I probably need to be poured into differently than I did in those years. And so, one thing that I learned from Anthony Hobgood that sticks with me every day is, we talk about the character building and how I built my philosophy around those mentors. Is we were in my first combine season, so I'd been working there about a year. So I came in, and like I told you guys, it was like March when I was kind of trying to find a job. So I came into the Exos in April. So combine season is a crazy part of the year for Exos. You got an extra 30, 40 Division I caliber athletes or Division I athletes that are getting ready to go to NFL, and it's just a crazy time of year. So it was almost a year before I got to that point. So I've been working there since April, go through all the easy stuff, and then you get to combine season, things are just nuts. And I remember the first time we ever worked on Saturdays was during combine season. They had a big bench press day on Saturdays, and not everybody had to come in on Saturday. I wasn't a combine coach. We had a speed coach and we had a strength coach. Anthony Hopgood was a strength coach for combine. So he did the bench press test. He did all the other tests. And then we had a speed coach that did the 40 and the 5-10-5 and the L drill and all those things. And I remember coming in one Saturday just to kind of see how things went on Saturday. I wasn't required to be there. And I missed a lot of Saturdays, but I wanted to come in and see what a Saturday looked like. And as things finished up for the bench press day, I was doing some cleaning with the interns and getting them squared away so they can leave for the day and things. And I can't find Anthony anywhere, and I can't find all the combine guys that were just here. I'm like, they leave that fast. And so I'm walking around, I'm turning the lights off, trying to close the building down. And I see Anthony's truck in the parking lot, and I see a lot of cars in the parking lot from the combine guys, but I have no idea. I'm like, are they in the restaurant eating? I don't know where they are. So I start turning lights off, and I'm walking around the building, and I get to this classroom where we do a lot of education stuff. So I took the interns in there, did a ton of intern education. We'd have mentorships come in where people pay a ton of money to come spend a week with Exos and do these mentorships. In this classroom, and Anthony's in there with like 20 combine guys, and he's talking about Jesus. he's got his Bible out and things. And I'm just like, what in the world is going on here? And you know, Exos is an incredible place, but it's not a place that you would imagine that to happen. It's not, you know, at a private Christian school here, that would be normal. But at Exos, you know, I've been there for almost a year. I've never seen that happen. So I sit in the back of the room and I'm like, what is going on? And I kind of felt awkward. I kind of left and I waited for Anthony to come out and get us stuff because we had the same office together. And I'm like, what was that? And he's like, oh, it's just some volunteer thing I do on Saturday. It's not a big deal. I just, you know, invite the guys if they want to do a little Bible study. We could do it. And it's not really that big. A lot of guys don't even come to it, and a lot of guys leave. It's not really a big deal. And I'm like, why do you do that? And we already had some pretty deep conversations about a lot of things. We drink coffee together and hang out at lunchtime and things and have some deep conversation. But he was like, man, I've been doing combine here for 10 years, and about my 4th or 5th time doing it, you know, you spend 6 weeks, 8 weeks with the guys, depending on when combine is that year and when bowl games are that year. And we'd always talk about 40-yard dash and vertical jump and broad jump and bench press test and all these things. And, you know, I just felt like we didn't really pour into them. They're about to be millionaires. They're about to be, you know, 22-year-old millionaires and go blow all their money and do all the things that they do that are really dumb. And we just never poured into them any other way. And anyway, so a couple of years went by. I think he was in his 4th or 5th season. And one of the guys that he had trained for combine, I can't remember the guy's name, what team he played for. I think he had some kind of injury or he got cut from the team on his 2nd season or something, or maybe it was his rookie season. And he drives back to his high school football field where he played football and shot himself in the head. And Anthony was like, I will never let that happen again, man. I will never pour into these guys for 6 to 8 weeks about vertical jump and broad jump and 5-10-5 and all these things, and not once, you know, mention Jesus Christ. I'll never let that happen again. And so every year after that point, he would have this little Bible study on Saturdays. And he got a bunch of like very big, very athletic 21-year-old, 22-year-old guys about to be millionaires that just kind of think they have it all figured out, have these huge egos. Their agents, you know, their agents pay for all the training extras. Their agents are buying them cars and buying them shoes. And it's just a very weird environment during combine season. Obviously you get some pretty incredible kids that come through. I worked with Byron Jones one-on-one for a while because he had a shoulder surgery. He ended up breaking the broad jump like world record at combine. I don't know if you guys remember that a few years ago, but that guy was an incredible kid, man. Just came from great parents. His parents came by one day. His older brother was like a Green Beret or something. Incredible family, but you know, you had a lot of the big egos, a lot of the not politically correct guys, and so it was a very weird situation. So for him to do that, for me to do that would be very nerve-wracking. I don't know if I could do that, and he did it. And but he played fullback at Ole Miss. He's a pretty big guy, and I don't know how he did it, but it's pretty incredible. And that's kind of stuck with me ever since then. And so when I think about the kids I have now, I learned a lot of Exos notes from some of my mentors, and I learned a ton of Exos about speed and about conditioning. And we do a lot of speed work here. We do a lot of conditioning. We lift a lot, you know, and all those things. And we do it. We have Team Builder. I've got 2 flat screen TVs in the weight room right now. I've got tablets attached to all the racks, so the guys tape tight their weights in. So I don't want it to seem like we don't do a great job with the X's and O's, but it's so much more than that. I don't want, you know, one of my kids to graduate that I worked with from freshman year to senior to go out and do something stupid. I don't want to ever hear one of those guys commit suicide or, you know, just do something that you don't want to hear about from a kid that spent 4 years with you. And you never once, you know, talk about your character, never once talk about being a good man, never once talk about Jesus, you know, and just, I never want that to happen. Obviously, I train 150, 200 kids a day. You know, maybe one day something bad does happen. I don't know if we can prevent all of it, but try to do a good job of talking about character traits way more than we talk about bigger, stronger, faster to win football games or win baseball games or win basketball games. You know, obviously we do a good job of those things. We've had some incredible numbers since I've got here of guys, vertical jumps going up and squats going up and all that, but that's not the end goal.
And I'm sure the country who are in this thing to make an impact, just like yourself, and doing a ton of different things in the weight room to teach their kids these positive character traits that you're talking about. What are some of the practical things that you do to make an impact on your kids, whether it be from your personal core values that you want to pass on to them, or
whether it just be general life skills that you want to help them build? What are some practical things you do?
So one thing we do, I kind of stole from Garrett Keith, one of my good friends. We met a few years ago. And then John Garish, he's at North Broward Prep. He's like 30 minutes below me. Great strength coach there. He's got this award called the Iron Eagle. So they're the North Broward Prep Eagles that I kind of stole and turned into the Iron Lion. And then Garrett Keith's got these character traits that he kind of goes through with his kids. And I think he does it once a week for the first, I don't know how many character traits he had, 8 to 10 weeks. And so I kind of merged the two and made a award here called the Iron Lion. And the Iron Lion is one of those awards that you get into the award ceremony with all the, so right now when fall rolls around, we'll go to an award ceremony and we'll have football and we'll have golf and we'll have volleyball and we'll have cross country and swim. We'll all be in the gym and all their parents will be in there, all the kids will be in there, and they'll get all these awards for most valuable player and most improved player and coaches award, and they'll go through all these awards, and then I'll get up for the last few years. And this is fall, winter, and spring. So you got a different group of athletes, different group of parents, all this every time, and give out an award that has nothing to do with their performance on the field, or the court, or the pool, or whatever. And it's pretty interesting. So I'll get up and I'll give a description and more about integrity, more about character, more about humility, things like that. And I'll kind of drop on that point, like, hey, this award may go to somebody who's never plays, it may go to a bench warmer. This award may go to your best player on your team. But I try to give out one per team if I can. Obviously, there's some sports where you may have 2 or 3 cross-country athletes in the weight room, and maybe those 3 guys don't live up to those expectations. So maybe cross-country doesn't get one. But I try to give one to every sport if I can. So I'll get up and give the description, and sometimes the award goes to some guy that is never going to get another award his whole high school career. And it's pretty special. Sometimes people are shocked by who gets the award. It's just really quiet kid who never sees the court or never sees the field, who works his butt off every day in the weight room and just displays those character traits. So we have 10 character traits that are hanging in the weight room right now. Each one has a Bible verse next to each one. So we integrate the Bible into it. I shouldn't be sharing character traits that you can't find in the Bible. Like, I should be making up words. I should be sharing things that, like, you can't find from Jesus. So, like, if you can't find humility in the Bible, maybe it's not that important. Maybe I shouldn't be sharing that. You know what I mean? So I try to make sure that the 10 words that I chose you can find in the Bible, so I can have a Bible verse to share. So they're not just coming from me. I mean, these have been around for thousands of years. You'll find in all the cool books, The Good to Great and Extreme Ownership and all those things that we read. You'll find the same ones, but also make sure that you can find those in the Bible. We are a private Christian school, and I just want to make sure the kids know it wasn't just coming from some fancy book that I read or come from my brain, because I'm not the best example of any of these traits, but that it was coming from the Bible. So we have 10. I can look at them right now: humility, integrity, friendship, teamwork, honesty, effort, faith, consistency, gratitude, and toughness, that we go through every Wednesday for about 15 minutes before our bench press day. And I'll share, each one has a little definition below each one has a Bible verse next to it. And now I try to come up with some kind of story or some kind of relevance to life. And the basic idea is these characteristics will not only make you successful in whatever sport you want to play, but they'll make you successful in life and whatever it is that you want to do after high school. And so that's kind of what I do from a standpoint of making sure I'm getting it done. And then obviously we sneak in other stories. Obviously we have chapel every Thursday. The days that we have chapel, I may bring in the weight room and talk about what I heard in chapel that kind of influenced me. All those things. Sometimes I'll see, honestly, there's been days where I'm on my way to school and I'm drinking my coffee in my office or something, and I see something on Facebook that just triggers me and I can't get it out of my head. And it's like God's telling me to share this. I had one a couple weeks ago that just ate me up. And it was just like my first class starts walking in and I'm nervous and I'm like, I don't want to share this. I don't want to talk about this. And I was like, I got to do it. And then I ended up sharing with every single class that day. I have five weight training classes, all boys. So each class is around 30 kids. So I train 140 to 150 boys just during the school day, not including after school. And then we have a full-time female certified strength coach who has 2 female classes that she trains. And then after school, we come together and train all the co-ed sports. Anybody comes in. So we have cross country comes in, they're co-ed. Swim comes in, they're co-ed. and all those sports that come in after school. We just work with everybody who comes out of school together. So we have 2 full-time strength coaches together after school. So just from a standpoint of making sure that I am doing it, it's there on the wall right now. We do it every Wednesday unless something comes up, and I'll just push it to the next Wednesday. And it's been pretty cool, man. I know last year, right before graduation, they had a group of seniors come up and talk in chapel one day. Instead of bringing a chapel speaker or having our guy here, our Bible guy here speak, they had some of the seniors speak. And one of the baseball seniors that stood up is actually playing at North Greenville University now. Incredible young man. Was our catcher for a long time. Incredible guy. Actually shared one of the character traits and was talking about friendship and surrounding yourself by the right people. And I had showed this video on the flat screen TVs in the weight room. So if you look up the crab mentality, I think I actually got it from Chop Wood, Carry Water. The guy talks about crab mentality. So I looked it up.
Yeah.
If you look it up, you start finding out information. And then I actually was Googling it, and it came up on YouTube. And so it's basically like you put a bunch of crabs in a bucket that they can obviously get out of, like a 5-gallon bucket full of crabs, and like all the way to the top where it looks like they can get out. If it was just one crab in a bucket, it would get out. But if it was a bunch of crabs, when one tries to get out, the other ones will actually pull him down, and so he can't get out the bucket.
Oh
And if he keeps on trying to get out, the other crabs will actually gang up on him and like break his legs. And if he keeps on persisting to get out, they'll actually kill it. And so the whole story was about surrounding yourself by people who want you to achieve more, so not to hold you back. And he actually shared that in chapel after I had shared it. Like I shared it in the fall, and it was in the spring. He's about to be at graduation, and it still remembered everything that I said in the video that showed. So things like that I thought were pretty awesome just from this poster that I created, and we're trying to pour into the guys. It's just 10 characteristics that will last you a lifetime, no matter what you want to do.
No, that's so awesome to hear that, because, our job is so much more than just get them stronger, get them faster, help them become more explosive. It really is to pour into them, to develop that character, to help them understand how to win life, which ultimately we know comes through a relationship with Jesus. And so the fact that you're getting to do that with the platform that you've created with these 10 characteristics, it's so encouraging, because it's easy to get discouraged sometimes with like, man, am I making impact? Am I making a difference? And then just to have one athlete, kind of remember what you say or say something like that, or get to see that's got to be so rewarding in this field.
Yeah, it was pretty special that day. He didn't mention my name or anything, but he kind of said something like, I'm going to share one thing. And he said, if you're in weight training, you'll know what I'm talking about. And that was kind of it. And everybody kind of looked at me like, what's he fixing to share? That's pretty cool. But there's a lot of other stories. When you first start doing something like that, you're wondering if it's going in one ear and out the other, and if guys are actually listening. So for a guy to share that in chapel, I had just started it last fall. So my first year I didn't do it, and I was trying to find ways to get better. So I did it in the fall, and in the spring he still remembered it.
Man, that's awesome, Coach. Well, we want to be respectful of your time and everything, but we do have, we end the episode with these fast finishers. But before we ask you that, I wanted to ask you one more question. You've talked a lot about strength conditioning. You've talked a lot about character development. What about mistakes? What has been one mistake you've made, and how has God kind of used that to teach you to build your own character and to become a better coach, a better person yourself?
Oh, you got another hour?
Let's go, man.
I made a lot of mistakes in my career. I can't think of one main one. I can't think of one main mistake that I've made. I know I've made a lot of mistakes, but sometimes just slipping up and saying things that you don't mean, saying things you shouldn't say, whether you're joking or not, early on in your career as a young coach. I thought for a long time it was just the X's and O's. I thought for a long time it was just bigger, stronger, faster. I didn't realize how much of an impact we've made on these kids. Just not trusting God and making different moves that I could have made in my career. And then, sometimes trusting God and, I'm exactly where he wants me to be, and that there's no need to go anywhere else for another job offer that looks pretty, that has a nice logo that everybody would recognize. I can't think of one big mistake other than just small things over a long time.
And Coach, I appreciate your honesty there too, because I think a lot of us, the day-to-day, going through however many teams you might have, however many athletes you might work with, there are so many mistakes that we're making every single day. And, if we're going to self-reflect and look back, I can have a list that goes, from California to New York, of my mistakes, in a year. And so I think that the honesty there is the truth. There really are so many mistakes. And I think I heard a great quote from Kobe Bryant one time, and he said he actually doesn't believe in failure. Failure doesn't exist to him because it's a learning experience if you learn from it. So if you make the same mistake twice, then you're failing, right? But if you learn from it every time, you're just getting better every day, and so I appreciate that. But like we talked about, we have some fast finishers here. We just call them just quick 3 questions where we tell our athletes, right, we want to start strong, we want to finish fast, right? So we have a couple questions we just want to give to you before we let you go here. Favorite book you've ever read, favorite story from the Bible, and then how do you define success?
Favorite author is a guy named Andy Andrews. He's from pretty close to where I'm from. He's from a place called Orange Beach or Gulf Shores, Alabama. So growing up in Mobile, that's kind of the closest nice beach there is to go to. So I spent a lot of time there as a kid. And he's got some pretty cool books that kind of revolve around Gulf Shores, Orange Beach, that have some of the same, restaurants that I've been to, beaches that I've been to in the story. So I'm kind of drawn to him, but I think he's also got some really good books if you're not from the area. But you guys ever heard of The Traveler's Gift?
I don't know if I've heard of that one.
I haven't heard it.
The Traveler's Gift from Andy Andrews was actually given to me by a Green Beret, I believe, while I was at Exos, because those guys would always bring you gifts when they got done. We get those guys for 4 to 6 to 8 weeks, sometimes for injuries, and we would help them get back to war. So a lot of these guys have been injured for a while, could not be to get back to deployment status. So, you spend your whole life from you're 18 or 19 years old to in the military, has poured, basically $1 million into your training, into your surgeries, into all the things that you've done. And now you're not deployable. So the things that we had at Expos, the SOCOM contract we had was pretty special, but the guys would always give you presents and things. And this guy gave me this book called The Traveler's Gift and had no idea where I was from, nothing. And turns out the author is from like right down the road from where I'm from. And I've been to the same place that he talks about in some of his books. Not The Traveler's Gift. Traveler's Gift's different, but The Traveler's Gift is a really good book that I think everybody should read. It's very easy to read. You probably read the whole thing in one weekend, but it's incredible. But he's got another one that's probably my favorite book of all time, and it's really easy to read. You guys should pick it up. It's called The Noticer. And this is the one where he talks about a lot of the story is based in this fictional place called Orange Beach, Alabama, or Gulf Shores, and it has a lot of the same restaurants and stuff that I've been in, beaches. And it's just, I think life can drastically be impacted by your perspective. And the whole thing is about perspective. It's a book about perspective. And the noticer is a guy who notices things that nobody else notices. And it's this guy who he runs into old man that's just full of wisdom. And anyway, I don't want to spoil it for you, but it's an incredible book. The guy notices things that nobody else notices. So he'll ask you, like, at one scene, they're eating sardines and like drinking Coke on the beach, and he asked the guy in the book, what are you eating right now? Where are you? He's like, I'm eating sardines on the beach or in the sand. And the guy says, no, we're eating whatever he says, seafood with an ocean view, just things like that it changes your perspective a little bit. It's an incredible book, but he's got a follow-up book called The Noticer Returns, I believe. And it's very fun. They're very fun. They're very short reads. You can read the whole thing in a few days because you get drawn in. And when the chapter ends, you want to read the next one immediately. But I think everybody should read those. They're not very hard to read. They're incredible books. Andy Andrews is an incredible author. He's a guy, like, in real life, lost his parents, both his parents within 6 months of each other at like 18 years old. So as he graduated high school, he actually ended up living under a pier that I've been to several times in my life, and being homeless. And now he's an incredible author, incredible speaker, and lives in a place called Ono Island in Gulf Shores, or in Orange Beach, which costs a lot of money to live there. It's a pretty incredible story, just his personal story alone, but his books are incredible. Bible story, a little unique in the fact that I actually really enjoy Job. If you guys have ever read Job. If we had more time to get into my testimony and all this, and some of the things I've been through in my life on a personal level, I've actually lived a story very similar to Job. I was going through some really hard times when I was at Exos when I first got there that that we haven't had a chance to talk about. We've already been on here for an hour, so we don't have much time to eat about this whole story. But I actually had a guy, I never heard of Job in my life, and I actually had a guy, a military, I think he was a Army Ranger or a Green Beret, when I was going through these things, to go tell me to go read Job. And I've been drawn to Job ever since, and his story and some of the things that I've been through during my time at Exos on a personal level. So the book of Job is my favorite book in the Bible. And then
how do you define success? Yep.
How you define success? So when you guys chatted with Ron McKeefery a few weeks ago, I stole the book that he talked about, in a pit
with a lion on a snowy day. Yep.
I actually started that last night on our road game trip.
Incredible book, isn't it?
In chapter 1, the guy says, I define success as doing what you can with what you have, or the best with what you can with what you have where you are. I thought that was a pretty good definition. I'll just say finding out what God put you here for, finding your purpose, your passion, and doing it at a very high level and impacting the kingdom of God, before you leave this earth.
No, that's awesome. That's a great definition right there. And there's been kind of a common theme when we keep asking that question. It keeps going back to being at the center of God's will, making an impact, for his kingdom. But one of the reasons we created this podcast is we want to connect people. We want to connect like-minded Christian strength conditioning coaches from all over the world. So, Coach, lastly, how can listeners reach out to you, through email or phone number or whatever you feel comfortable sharing, social media? How can they reach out to you if they want to connect, whether that's through just connecting through something on the episode? How can they reach you?
Yeah, any way you want, man. My email is jevans@tka.net. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter, SC Coach Evans. Instagram is TKA Strength that the school created before I got here. I took over it when I got here. Any of those ways are fine. And then, obviously, if somebody needs my cell phone number, we can do that. And then just to, talk about connecting like-minded people, there's a group called the Iron Circle. I got the bracelet on right now. That
yep, Garrett about that. Yeah, Garrett Keith told us about it. Yeah,
one of the founders, and that is just been incredible, man. For the last year and a half, I've been on a phone call or a video chat just like this at 6 a.m. in the morning every other Tuesday with guys like Garrett Keith and Adam Atala and Micah Kurtz and John Garish and just so many, JT Thomas, and just so many like-minded Christian guys, and it's been incredible. And then at the last NatCon, NHSSA and NatCon, we kind of opened it to anybody after we did it for a year or so, or I think about 8 months or so after the second NatCon, and the third NatCon this past summer in Nashville. We kind of opened it up to anybody who want to be involved, and now we have 4 new groups that have started, and I lead one of those groups. So every other Tuesday, I'm getting poured into by a group of awesome guys at 6 a.m. in the morning. Then every other Tuesday, I'm leading a group and pouring into other guys at 8 o'clock at night. And there's other groups going on. I know Garrett leads one at 6 a.m. every other Tuesday, and JT Thomas leads one at 7 p.m. I think, or 9 p.m. And then Adam Atala leads one at 7 p.m. So those are pretty special. Talk about connecting like-minded people. I just wanted to open that up to anybody. If you want to get involved, hit me up or email Garrett Keith or Adam Atala, any of those guys. It's been pretty special.
Yeah, that's incredibly encouraging. As iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. So if you're listening to this, you're not alone. We need to come together as a body of Christ and, encourage each other and spur each other on towards love and good deeds. And especially in this field that we can have such a major impact for God's kingdom. So thank you so much for your time and for sharing. I got a lot of notes on this, and this is an incredible episode.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure to be on here. I've listened to your previous 2 episodes already. It's been a great podcast so far. So I was honored to be on here. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to the Built to Last podcast, where we encourage, equip, and empower coaches to live out their core values where they live, work, and wherever they build relationships. Have a blessed day, striving to build lasting impact.